Hi, everybody. I am Andra Annette, and I have some special guests with me here today. And welcome to Building Community. So, I have Victoria Sanchez and I have Amy. I'm not even going to try to do her last name a disservice, who's her executive assistant. And we're going to be talking and diving a little bit more into what Victoria actually does, some of her processes and stuff, because she's been a previous guest on our Healing from the Inside Out, and I love what she does. So she is a trauma reversal specialist, and she really helps people unpack some of those traumas that keep them stuck in the past instead of living a healthy, fulfilling life now. She's also a new author. She has books out, so we're going to be talking about that, addressing some of her messages in those books. So please help me welcome Amy. She can tell you her last name, and Victoria Sanchez. Hi, ladies.
Hi, Andra.
Please pronounce your last name, Amy.
Zwaigenbaum.
Oh, I would just mess that up totally. So, Victoria, let's dive a little bit. And, Amy, you can interject whenever you want. Feel free. Let's dive a little into what trauma reversal it really is. So on your sheet, your one sheet, it says that you have a PhD, peace and harmony doctor. And I thought that was so cute. I've never heard that described before. So tell me a little bit about some of the processes. I know you can't talk about clients specifically. I mean, I'm the same way, HIPAA. But tell me some of the processes you've helped walk some of your clients through that really made a change for them in their current life.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show again. I appreciate it. And thank you, Amy, for being here. And I do want to say this is my son's 53rd month anniversary. He died on the 16th of May. So I always want to give reverence to him and thank him for guiding me on my way. Um, I think more I'm a model, an influencer of how to heal from trauma. I when I lost Cody, I your brain waves get kind of blown apart. Your
Mm.
neural pathways, they they become dysregulated. And in that process, I had to learn how to have behavioral changes. I went out and I sought teachers at academies, universities, read a lot of books about neural pathways and neuroscience. I think that that started my healing journey,
Mm.
teaching my brain what was going on because I didn't understand the disconnect between my mind and my body. Mothers, especially mothers, parents, but especially mothers, because we create our children, they're part of our DNA. We create their heartbeat, the blood flows through us, we feel them inside of us. And when they are on the outside, the normal life process is that we die first. We've given them everything in their DNA to carry on.
Correct.
But when the cycle changes and they die first, then we become dysregulated. Our bodies are out of sync. It's searching for that child that's supposed to be here until we pass. And so it makes us back up. And we have to go and do a lot of introspection. For myself, having routines, getting up in the morning, learning how to chant, harmonize myself, say positive affirmations, do self-care. That's part of the steps in reversing the trauma.
You're gonna love my new book. You're gonna love it.
I
But
love
one of the best books I ever read was Shad Helmstetter's book, What We Say When We Talk to Ourselves. And he's a doctor that I met many years ago. I was at a lot of conventions that he was part of. And he talks about neuroplasticity and really retraining our brain. That's so much of the trauma and the stuff that we have now in our lives are really other people's stories that have been implanted in our brain from repetition, like the word no. Um, I think he said we hear the word no in a good family home at least 140,000 times before the age of 18, which is an astonishing number. But
Yes.
I did, that really changed my life because I did come from a traumatic background and I was able to rewire myself by changing those stories. So I totally get what you're saying. I also really do identify deeply with the mother-daughter connection. Not my personal story, but my mom lost my older sister. She was 49 when she died, and my mother was never really the same after that. And she did die within 2 years of that. Um, it probably escalated her death, I think. Um, so I don't think that living I don't think that any parent expects to live or survive their children, you know? And going on from that is really hard, and some people just never do. They always hold on to that pain. They don't really allow themselves to grieve and do the work that you did. But you work with other women, so how do you help them through that process? It's not just by example. You do EFT and breath work and all these other things you've taken, so I'm sure you use them in your practice, yes?
Yes. Neurolinguistic programming is something that I work with people on extensively. Through my grief journey, I knew that those morning routines and harmonizing myself would get me up in the morning, but then it was that self-talk, the words I was saying. What was I resonating? Because now I have learned in the spiritual realm that my son did come back to me. Part of his soul comes back to help that mother carry on our children's soul. Part of that energy from that comes back so we can carry on. So, how I like to look at it and teach other people, other mothers that are so stuck, is try not to say words that are doubtful, that are causing self doubt. Think of yourself as you're speaking to your child, because in a sense, you are. That essence of your child is inside of you. And when we speak and it doesn't resonate with love and peace and joy and those higher levels of consciousness, we can do a lot of damage to ourselves. If we wake up every day and we say, I can't see my child anymore, I don't have hope. Things that I hear are, I'm just waiting to die so I can be with them. One message I share with mothers is we don't have to wait till our physical body drops to be with them. We can go out and do things for them, with them in our soul that carries on like when they were alive. Nurture yourself in the morning when you get up. Fix yourself a breakfast. Do it as though you were going to do it for your child, because in a sense, they are living inside of you. And that self-care is like the next step, that self-talk, loving yourself. That's the next step in healing that process. And getting in front of the mirror, I have traveled this journey alone, and getting in front of the mirror, just like a bird in a cage, you can't leave them there alone. They'll die. You have to put a mirror in front of them so they feel like they have someone there. I learned to do a lot of mirror work. Thank you to Mel Robbins, because she does the high five challenge in the mirror. And when she was doing that, she gives a high five every day and, says something to herself. And I found that I love you are the three most powerful words, such a high resonance of frequency. And if you look in the mirror every day and look at yourself and put both hands on the mirror, say, I love you, Victoria. I love you, whatever your name is. That's also telling your child you love them. For myself, I don't have any other children in my household to say I love you. So to me, when I say I love you in the mirror, in essence, I'm telling my son I love him. And that keeps my heart soft. And that keeps me feeling him. And it helps me to move forward. So spiritually, that's one thing I like to do. And physically, I go ride my ATV. And I haven't got to ride in a little while. So I'm so excited to go ride next month. I ride my ATV. I change my scenery and I go do it all by myself. I go out in the hills where there's just miles and miles of sand and we're up high and I can overlook the beautiful valleys where I live. And I laugh with my radio. I'll cry with it. I sing. I put music on I love. And it changes those neuroplasticity, the neural pathways in your brain. It starts to regulate your left and your right side of your hemispheres. So that bridges that gap. So getting out and doing something physical, like I said, me, it was riding my ATV, but anything you can do that's physical and away from other people, go do it. Listen to different tones, radio, music, get away from the general population, find out who you are inside. Go watch the sunset on a mountaintop with your child at night. I built a little monument at the hill I ride, and I would sit there in the evenings, just me and the little monument, and I would watch the sun go down as a tribute to my son. I was doing something physically for him to honor him and for me to heal my soul. So that's a step as well. The NLP, the self-care, saying you that I love you in the mirror, giving yourself hugs, nurturing yourself, your mind, body, and your spirit, educating yourself. It all comes together to bridge that gap. And when you get to a place that you're sound enough in your mind that you can maybe carry on and create a legacy for your child, start journaling. You can turn that into a book. Keep all your pictures, post them on TikTok. It's a great way to start moving out of your current state of trauma. And these are things that I've done for me, and I encourage other women to do it. Getting out and putting their bare feet in the sand, in the grass, getting the ions, the negative and positive ions, start flowing out of the body, the stress ions, and the earth will pull them down. And it releases a lot of trauma in our body. Hugging a tree, they're so pure, they're so of nature. They have the Schumann resonance of the earth. And when you can ground yourself with a tree, it calms your nervous system. And mothers can go literally crazy because they're so out of sync. Their
Hmm.
creation is gone. It's not here anymore. So these are a lot of things that I implement.
It's all wonderful stuff. I've been having that conversation with myself in the mirror for 48 years, almost 58 years. So I know what a difference it can make. They weren't always positive, and when they changed to positive, it made a big difference. So I get that. And the book I was talking about is all about self-talk. That's what he does. He talks about self-talk and changing our self-talk to change our lives. So he's a very well-known author. He's probably made millions of dollars talking about self-talk. So I wish I could put that book in more people's hands because so many people don't understand the words come out of our mouth really do change a lot more than our pathways. Um, so Amy, what's your take on all this?
Well, to kind of back up a little bit, my father has Alzheimer's, and well, he was healthy. He made me make him a promise because it was very important to him that his kids didn't die before him. So he
Okay.
made me promise that I wouldn't die before him.
Since
Well, I
she,
mean, we're never, none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. None of us can really, make those kind of promises. I think we do to make people happy, but like you in the case of your father, but we really can't make those. We don't know where our life is necessarily going to believe you. So I do buy into the connection that you're talking about, the soul connection. You're talking about one after death. I know that because interestingly enough, and I talk a lot about this in my stories and cell regulation. I'm big on the cell dysregulation that's happening now because of the crazy healthcare crisis that we're in with all these sick diet craves. So, but you had a natural childbirth, right?
Well, I had a C-section, yes.
Oh, wow. So then this wouldn't really apply to you. So, because um our gut, which is our second brain, the gut microbiome, is really passed from the mother to the child in the birth canal.
Mm-hmm.
So as they exit into the world, that invisible shield of microorganism that's from the womb through the birth canal covers that child, and it goes into the large intestine where it grows and forms the microbiota, our second brain. So, um, a lot of people think that our brain is responsible for our thoughts, our actions, and well, everything we feel. But the brain, the enteric brain, which is your gut microbiome, it really does have a mind of its own because it talks to the brain all day long via the vagus nerve. But when you sever that connection, the enteric brain continues all those processes through the neurotransmitters and all of those cool things that it would do with the brain if the brain was attached. It does independently on its own. So
Absolutely.
I think that's pretty cool. That
Yep.
the gut has a mind of its own. So, people say I get these gut feelings. Well, it's more than just a feeling. It's really telling you something. So we should listen to our guts.
That's
So
another thing I talk about too, is it's good that you brought up the gut brain because that's another thing that you go into. It's not just the physical and spiritual aspects of it, but it's what you put into your body because it goes down into your gut. What you drink, what you eat, what you're intaking. And so I do like to tell people um, that going, especially right after they lose their child, if they can go vegan or at least vegetarian, their body has a little bit of time to calm down the nervous system because a dead animal inside of you lasts for 3 days. They are rotting inside of your body for up to 3 days. And
not
that,
necessarily true. So don't get me on to nutrition because there's a lot of mis you don't want to go down this road with me because that's not necessarily true. This is my mastery. So that's not true. There's a lot of misconceptions about nutrition out there and what people are teaching couldn't be any further from the truth. So um we do consume everything that animal has consumed in his life. So they are often inoculated and loaded and pumped with all kinds of hormones and antibiotics. So that does have an effect on us. But how fast it stays in your system or passes through would have a lot to do with the condition of your gut. You might see him leave in a couple of hours if you're healthy. So he's
right,
not necessarily staying in everybody's system for 3 days. So
up to 3 days. That's what science shows.
yeah, but that's not true either. So if someone's not passing a meal within 3 days, they got a lot more problems than you know. Trust me.
Yeah.
Trust me. Because they need to be having that conversation with me. But yeah, what you put into your body is very, very important for your emotional well-being, for your physical and your spiritual, because people used to tell us we are what we eat, and we really are. So, in my stories today, I was telling people a fact that we are 90% microorganisms and only 10% human cells.
Hmm.
So, we really need to feed that 90%, which is now your gut microbiome. So people think it's this little thing hiding away in your body when it's really running through your entire body. So
Yeah.
what we feed it depends on the quality of life we have. So
Yeah. And a mother's nervous system is so overstimulated that taking that meat away from them because of all the inoculations, because of everything that's put into the animal product, it does resonate and have an effect on the mother system. Drinking alkaline water, hydrogenized water, getting their pH right in their balance in their body, that also helps not only their gut brain, but their mental health, their
do
heart
you
rate.
do you know that studies show that drinking alkaline water does not change the chemical composition of the acidity of your blood. So it's not proven to have any effect whether the water is alkaline or acidic, or it really doesn't. So um yeah. So because there's different companies that actually sell alkaline water, and some companies that sell very high acidic water, they use it for different things. Some people use it for washing their clothes, but in the body, it doesn't matter whether it's alkaline water or not, because it has to pass the digestive process. Sure, if you're drinking cold water, your body has to heat it up just to process it, and
Mhm.
the alkalinity and acidity in your blood does not change. So that it
When
really
you,
doesn't matter if they're having alkalinity or not. And whether or not they're eating meat products really depends on where it's from. So I don't eat meat. I used to. I haven't eaten meat in a really long time. But prior to this show, I was just having this conversation on another one, telling people that the diet should really be more based on what works for that person, because you can eat animals and be very healthy if they are farm raised and they're fed the grass fed, and they're not wheats and corn and all that other crap that is loaded with ultra processed food. So it really depends on what's right for the individual and their genetic compound
yeah,
composition, whether they can break down fats, proteins, it does vary from individual. So um, you can certainly teach whatever you want, but I don't want to put that message out on my show that the people should be only eating this, and because I am in that health space, and I wouldn't tell somebody that. So I you're free to believe and teach whatever you want, but the right diet is the right diet for that individual, from my perspective.
yeah, from a nervous system standpoint, um, getting the like that mother that's got that trauma into the right diet, or not diet, it's a lifestyle change that is conducive for their genetic makeup, for their body to take it in. But there's steps that we can take to help with that. There's an AO scan that we can do on them that they speak into, and the frequencies from their voice can show where it's like having an MRI of your whole body. And they speak into it, and then the results come out, and it shows where their levels are and what needs to be adjusted, and the frequencies they need to listen to, the solfeggio tones, um, what's good for them in their life. So it is based off of that mother's individual needs, but there is a stepping stone to that to kind of let their body have like a break from certain things and then come back into where they're balanced. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I don't do what you do, but from a medical point of view, I just feel differently about it. So because you're talking about speaking into something, and do you do DNA tests on them to see, gene typing or anything like that? Or do they wear other monitors like CGMs, or monitor their HRV, or are they just speaking into something and that determining what their diet is?
So for myself, I did have a DNA test. So I went to that next level. I went in to do my human design chart and my blueprint to find out what my personality types are and different stuff like that. So there's like a lot of different things to utilize in the medical field and in
I
this.
mean, tracking their genetic makeup for their foods and stuff like that, not for personality. Um, it's different.
Right.
Like, yeah, when we talk about functional nutrition, there's a lot of things out there. I don't practice functional nutrition because I do biomarkers that are much more cost effective for most people. You
Mhm.
know, a lot of people don't want to do genotyping. So, um, but are you suggesting this to your clients? Because you're saying that you took these tests, but are your clients taking these tests, and is that what you're basing their next steps on? Or so what's that process look like when someone comes to you? You go through the self-talk and helping them love themselves again and self-care, and then do you, because you're giving dietary advice,
Mhm.
you know, are you a dietitian or a nutritionist?
No, but I had a death experience, and when I came back, I had been gifted all these things. So I'm very highly intuitive. I healed myself, and I do have experience with epigenetics from growing up because I raised basically bred to design our own horse type of thing. So we went into the genetic markers, we went into color, we went into personality types, and we would pick certain things from this stallion to this mare, and then we would, have the end result. So then it was keeping up with their nutrition, keeping track. We had vets that, took their blood. And we would keep track of what their levels were of potassium and minerals and the magnesium. So I am very familiar with all of that.
Does
And
vary with people and animals, though. You are aware of that, correct?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, definitely. But I think that all the knowledge I had from that experience and then going through the schooling that I went through and having my death experience and the intuition, I come from a very spiritual realm. So I do blend the science and the spirit with both of them to help them to come into balance. It's mainly about getting them balanced. Their left and right brain, their mind-body connection, their gut health, like their physical health. When all of that comes in together, they can start functioning and moving forward. So we do have to figure out what it is that's right for them. I do make suggestions. I do have them do their own research and check with, other doctors that I recommend that have programs online. They are welcome to get their own test, their genetic test if they would like. From there, though, if they can't do that, then we can go into their human design and start helping them from the root. Who are they? What's good for their body, like going into their astrology, going into their Akashic records, pulling out all of the trauma that they have for generations. And that's all spiritual. That's a lot of spiritual work that you have to do to really uncover all of that. And then the other stuff is
A
kind of
lot of
ice.
emotional work too. It's not
Yeah,
just spiritual.
yeah, definitely, definitely emotional work. You get that trauma stuck in the body, and you got to figure out how to work that out. There's a lot of that.
Not easy. Nobody wants to do that inner work. But
No.
I'm happy to hear that you do refer them to people with actual degrees and experience in those practices,
Yeah,
especially on from a nutritional and a medical, especially gut health because it runs through our whole body. They really should talk to a specialist in gut health.
yeah.
So, because that will really help them in every area. Because if your body's not well, your mind ain't well. That's for sure. I certainly was, there were times in my life where I was emotionally broke and spiritually unfit, but I wasn't physically fit either. And it was a direct cause of what was going on with my gut. So, I could certainly speak to that. What's your take on all this, Amy?
Well, I think it goes both ways, really. because when you're emotionally unsound, you're physically unsound too.
But your emotions are governed by your gut and what you're physically taking in, because the food you're eating can change your serotonin, your dopamine, and all those neurotransmitters that really do promote those emotions and everything. So they are all connected. So you really are what you eat, and what you put into your system does have an impact on those emotions, on those feelings, on those behaviors, all those things that we do from day to day, from the time you
Well,
wake up to the time you go to sleep.
mhm.
Well, it does, but then you've got people who have like severe depression and stuff like that, and they're having physical symptoms
The
because of the emotional.
depression is part of that, because if you have, let's say you had leaky gut like I have, I was severely depressed, and it is part of that. So I mean, if you look at what's going on right now, and you really do the research on gut health, which I have extensively, poor gut health or dysbiosis is connected to depression, anxiety, Alzheimer's, all of the disease processes. So science says it's connected to about 85% of disease processes, but in my own personal research, I've connected it to all of them, and I think they're underestimating, and I think that a lot of people are just not giving the gut the kudos it deserves, because it is running through 90% of your body. So, but it does have an impact. So the gut, everybody talks about the gut and the brain access, right? But it is also connected to your thyroid, which has a lot to do with mood, also mood, cognition. So the gut and the thyroid work on the same axis. So a lot of that depression is also the poor gut impact on the thyroid. Because when one system comes down in your body, Amy, they all start to come down. It's like a domino effect. If you have a bad heart, your kidneys are having trouble too, because your kidneys are the pressure in that heart, right? So each system is connected and interrelated in one way or another, right? So they all function independently, but they're codependent on each other.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
I It does make sense. I'm just wondering how that applies to things like emotional eating and stuff like that. Like a lot of people, when they get depressed, they'll eat things they shouldn't eat. Now, they were already depressed, and what they ate isn't good for their gut, but they started with the emotional, not with the physical in that, didn't they?
No, it's you. The depression that's happening is because of something physical that's going on in the body, and the depression is just a symptom of the underlying root cause, the etiology of the disease. And emotional eating is not just connected to depression. It's a habit that people have picked up because they do not know how to deal with those emotional responses. So something triggers them, right? So if somebody's angry, they're not going to go in the refrigerator and eat ice cream. They're going to go and get something that they can crunch on because they want to get out that anger, right? So if they're sad, that you'll find those people more prone towards ice cream and soft things, right? But emotional eating is a response to a trigger or a reaction. It's a reactive symptom to something in their environment that is triggering them. And rather than deal with what's triggering them, they're taking it out on themselves internally, because people that are depressed don't feel good about themselves.
Mhm.
That's part of the depression, that they kind of feel. I mean, I certainly didn't feel good about myself, and anybody I've ever talked to, in the field, or patients, or just friends in general that were depressed, weren't feeling good, weren't feeling whole. So a lot of what we see on our outer worlds is a reflection of our inner world. That
Mhm.
depression that, we think we see in other people is really what we're feeling about ourselves. So a lot of people don't realize, like, um maybe you're feeling very fatigued, right? So, but fatigue is the symptom. It's not the cause of that fatigue. It could be that you have low iron or that you have a slow bleed in your system somewhere, maybe upper GI or lower GI. So those are symptoms of an underlying disease. And because they're not taught correctly, people think those are the diseases. Depression's not the disease, it's the symptom. So they give it a diagnose because hypertension is a diagnosis, right? All of those are diagnoses, but that they're not, healthcare is set up to treat the symptoms, not really find the causes. Because if I'm being honest, and I am being honest, we we as people are worth more money to them when we're sick than when we're well. So healthcare has been such that they minimize things and treat the symptoms rather than, I mean, nutrition is the backbone of most diseases. Most diseases could be preventable with good nutrition. Doctors aren't encouraged to know or even give nutritional advice. So there's something wrong with that picture, right? That's very sad. If you can prevent diabetes, heart disease, kidney outcomes with a simple nutrition, or referring your patient to a dietitian to get that help, or a nutritionist, or functional nutritionist. Because functional people run a lot more diagnostic tests. They look at your DNA. People wear CGMs to track your blood sugar to see what it is that's spiking it. Maybe you have an intolerance to a food that you're not aware of, right? So and then these are studied by specialists that are reviewing those tests, right? So, but depression is usually a symptom. It's not the cause. I
So
mean,
does
I mean,
that,
it's a symptom. It's not usually the cause. And um, people that are not depressed, that are very happy, eat emotionally, right? So, because from the time we're very young, we are taught to be celebratory eaters. Oh, it's your birthday, have a cake. Christmas, let's make cookies. So everything is, so this is what we're taught. And that's where the problem and the rewiring that Victoria is talking about really comes in. But if you have dysbiosis in your gut and you have an imbalance of good bacteria, the bad bacteria is slowly eating the good bacteria, then that's affecting everything in your neural pathways. It's affecting your neurotransmitters. It's impacting all of it because your gut literally runs through your entire body. It's connected through pathways to everything in your body. And
does
My
one of
that,
the most important pathways is your brain. That
yeah,
does have a lot to do with a lot of those other neurotransmitters that work with the gut, right?
sorry,
and
does that mean that you can cure these serious problems with nutrition?
Absolutely. You can cure all of these problems by taking care of your gut. Your gut is, you are 90% microorganisms. Your gut is just a host of different kinds of organisms. That's all it is. You got fungi, bacteria. That is what makes up your gut. That's running through your entire body. So I don't know if I said it here because I've been on so many things tonight. You are 90% microorganism. So if you can create that balance in your gut where the good bacteria is at a higher than the bad bacteria and create that balance, then you can absolutely cure and prevent these things. So some of those things have already started. The diet industry has been selling us ultra processed food that is loaded in chemicals that is causing all of the diseases that we're talking about, including that depression, right? Because that sugar is not good for your gut. So it is really, we can look ahead. We can't undo a lot of the damage, but you can reverse that damage. I was someone that was living with 5 autoimmune diseases. So I will always have those diagnoses, but I don't have those autoimmune diseases anymore. They're gone. I've been symptom free for well over a decade, closer to 15 years for some of them. And that was through repairing my gut. That's what got me interested in the gut because when I was a child, I always had trouble with thyroid and gut. It was just a matter of figuring out which one. And then, to my surprise, it was great to know that they were working thick as thieves together. So I said, oh, this is going to be much easier than I thought. And it did. So yes, there's a lot of fallacies about health, and I wasn't trying to be rude to you, Victoria. I appreciate what you do. You know, I'm not going to lie and say I understand exactly what you do because that's what makes you specialty in your area. We're in very different areas. I don't cross that spiritual realm with other people. I do um let them know in no uncertain terms that the emotional, the physical, the spiritual, they're all together. It's all one person. You can't separate them because if any one of them is out of alignment, the person is not well. So I totally get that. I've spent most of my life trying to bring the body back together that everybody out there keeps separating, right? So I do understand that. So I don't mean any disrespect. It's just that when certain things that people are talking about that they don't have specialty in, it sends a mixed message to people that are already confused because the markets out there are really talking about this diet and talking about this diet and talking about that diet and making them sound bad. No diet is really bad. You know, they all have the risks and the benefits, just like every medication that people are taking. You know, taking different medications your doctor prescribes, antibiotics, you need it to get rid of this, right? But it has a lot of risks. It's having a lot of effects on our bodies. Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, blood dyscrasias. All medications cause something in the body. But if you need it to stay alive because your blood pressure's through the roof, then I wouldn't tell you, oh, you might wind up with something in 20 years, because right now is when you have the issue. So, um, but we're in a time in history where there's never been so many people in the market talking about health. And because there's so much miscommunication and those people aren't really collaborating together, and they should be because we're all after the same goal, that they're sending mixed messages, because everybody has their own set of beliefs about what's right and what's wrong. But science does play into that. And a lot of people out there that spouting health have never worked a day in a hospital, in a health clinic, never studied any science or biology, and they're claiming to be experts. And that's very discerning for me, because they're hurting a lot of people. So that's why I always pause and tell people just to always do the research, like you tell people, always. That's very important. I tell people all the time, to even research what I'm telling them, because that's how the more informed you are, the better you are to help other people. Some people go to law school, they pass the bar and they practice and they don't continually do research. Well, law isn't really a good example of that because most of their job is research, right? So that's not a good example. So scratch that. But Um, so, but some people, they don't keep going. They're like, okay, I landed a good job. And unless, that job is pulled out from under them, they don't continue to do that growth. You were talking about re-educating yourself, right? So that was part of your process to understand what you were feeling. Most people won't take that step, Victoria. Most people won't do the inner work that you took the time to do. They'll go to a doctor, they'll say, listen, I'm really depressed, and the doctor will give them medication. Here you go. And or send them to grief counseling or someone else to help with it, unfortunately. You
On
know?
my journey and the self-discovery and the rebirth of myself, I studied Ayurveda psychology. I don't go to doctors for me to tell them what is wrong with me and for them to diagnose me for a problem that I have. I am preemptive and I take action up front. So I do eat the right things for my body. I do it through the Ayurvedic method, and the psychology of it is more based on taking care of yourself so that you don't have to go to someone else for them to give you medicine and fall into that phase of, I need this, I need that, someone has to help me. No, we don't need anything. We can heal ourselves. Truly, we can heal ourselves. If,
Everybody can.
yep,
Everybody can. And my
yep,
my girlfriend studies, well, she teaches Ayurvedic medicine. So
Ayurveda,
something I'm fond of. Yes.
love it.
But I'm from that name, from that whole concept. I tell people in my stories all the time that they have everything they need inside of them. But
Absolutely.
a lot of what they're lacking is their self-confidence because everybody out there is telling them something different. And we are a quick fix society, right? We're teaching people, I mean, people spend more time distracted than they do present. And that's a big problem because it's only through that mindfulness and that presence that you can really do that self-care and that self-love you need. But if you're living on your phone, that's not going to happen. You
Right.
can't be present and be here too, right? You can't. It just doesn't work. And society is not present. They're so busy worried about other people's stories, who's posting this on Facebook, who's over here on Instagram, that they're really not, you know, they're not living a full life.
They're
Yeah.
not having these conversations either. They're not having genuine conversations. They're always distracted. Like you say,
Yeah,
they're
I know. I know.
distracted. And that is one of the biggest root problems we have is if we can get quiet with ourselves and think about what we want, listen to our body. What is our body telling us we need? What is our mind saying we need? We got to answer that, but we have to answer that. We can't go and put that off on someone else. We can, but then we always are under their care, right? We have to step back and really reflect and find out what it is our body needs and our mind and our spirit and feed that to them through education, through poetry, through beautiful music, solfeggio tones, something that's going to rebalance your body to the shamanic frequencies of the earth. Because if we can keep our feet on the ground, right? Our minds are always wanting to go flying out somewhere else, but
So
we can
true.
we can keep ourselves grounded, and then in between feed our body what it needs, physical activity, good food, good water, and our mind's always thinking, right? So we got to keep ourselves grounded, but just preemptively, that pre-care of ourselves, of being present in the moment and sitting with ourselves, that really clears out our psychology. And when we get our mind right, we can start functioning a little bit better. Quit being so reactive emotionally.
Mhm.
Quit overusing our body in ways like our gut, for instance. Breath work alone. If you learn how to put breath into your gut, that's so healing through these breath modalities, putting breath into your brain, breathing that life force into your heart when it's broken. Like that is powerful. Breath is the power of life. It is our life force energy. That's something I really like to start on. really, really am big about that. Getting present in that moment.
It's the answer to everything. If you can't be mindful, you're not achieving any of those goals. I do
Yeah.
have to cut this show because we're chatty, 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 chatty. Any last words from you? I really love these conversations because I think that this offers so much to the communities that we serve. And I think it's when women come together like this and they dare to have these conversations out there, right? That it gives other women permission to have these conversations too and get insights from their friends and their peers, right? Because if we can look to each other and support each other on these journeys, we really do have a chance of that healing, right? Sometimes, it's like a car, that has all those wheels. Sometimes one of those wheels just aren't spinning right, but as a community, we can get that wheel back on the road, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're all out here trying to do. What's your last words, Amy?
Well, I think we need to get away from the society that goes to the doctors looking for the magic pill.
Yeah,
And I've said this to my doctors more than once. Okay, I'm sick. I've come to you. You prescribed the magic pill that makes everything all better, and then everything's good. And my doctor used to say, there is no such magic pill. You've got to do stuff about things.
yeah,
You have to take good care of yourself in order to be healthy. The they can't just give you the blue pill or the red pill like they do on what was
The,
that movie?
the Matrix.
The Matrix. Yeah,
that was a cute movie. I was thinking Alice in Wonderland myself.
Oh, that
that
was one
too.
too. Yeah. Spending everything.
So, yeah, that tells you my age, right? All right, guys, it's been so great having this conversation. I want to thank the viewers for logging on today and really seeing us, for watching. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much and have a great night.
Thank you.
I can't see.